Hey everyone, welcome to the workshop today. Hope everyone had a great time hacking so far. Doing reading up about like what's the upcoming super exciting update. Polkadot Hub. The start. The additions of EVM compatibility into Asset Hub. Super exciting time, right? So it opens up like this huge, smart contract capability for Polkadot that is, I guess, a lot developer friendly compared to building a substrate. Much harder, but it's not impossible. If you still want to do substrate, I highly recommend take a look at the documentations from Polkadot. But today we're not talking about those ones. Today we'll be talking about LST. We're talking about yield. We're talking why LST, like what can we use LST for? And I really want to spend the workshop today to like really pill you guys on the concept of LST, because to me personally, I think it's something that could really change a lot of the risk profile when it comes to a lot of stuff that we will be dealing with, in DeFi especially. So DeFi, I'm like a big fan of DeFi, and I 100% believe DeFi has extremely great product market fit. So builder, think about DeFi. Seriously, think about DeFi. It's something that has extremely good product market fit. Very easy to explain to like a user using something about like traditional banking, and then you offer something much better, right? Very has really good product market fit. But today we'll be talking about something that, oh sorry, yeah, so today we were talking about liquid staking, and this is personally is my guide to this concept of yield maximalism. And how do you as a developer, how do you think about yield? And yield as in like interest rate, if you're coming from like just a like you haven't talked about like yield in DeFi in the context of DeFi yet. So yield maximalism, essentially how you maximize it. And as a developer, like there's this relationship between you and the LPs, where you as a developer come up with some ways to essentially make more money for the investor or user of your protocol. So, but today we're talking about LST, right? Liquid staking token. Uh, which is a liquid staking token is just like the fundamental of yield. It's like the quote unquote probably one of the lowest risks when it comes to DeFi compared to like everything else, like lending, yeah, LP for a DEX positions. Those ones it's much higher risk, but liquid staking is like super low risk. You can even think it very similar to a savings account. So then it's like you build something with liquid staking token. It's very easy to explain to people like, hey, it's like a savings account. You put money in, you make more money. Right? Very straightforward, super straightforward. Anyway, but today we have a presentation to talk more about LST, and I explained to you the mechanism, how LST works, what you can do with it, some examples, and also, of course, all the resources are available on GitHub, by the way. So you will be spending. If you would need anything, go to GitHub. We have set up everything for you, and just go there. You read. If you have any questions, you open discussions, or you tag me, and I will have a couple channels for you to reach 24/7. Essentially, I will be available all the time for you to to ask any questions. Here is the QR code. Let me. I think I forgot to share. I'm
You
sorry.
forgot to share your screen. I didn't know
Oh,
if you were just talking before it. But yeah, we need you to share your screen, sir.
I forgot to share my screen. Yeah, it was just a nice intro screen. Yeah, I leave it here for just a few seconds so you can take a
Nice.
look. Anyway, so I.
Oh no, I've kicked you off the stage. I tried to go off the stage. Sorry, I've kicked you off the stage. Disaster. Guys, sorry. I'm a mess. We're a mess. Wait.
Top is super chill, man. No
I
worries.
meant to kick myself off the stage. I kicked you off the stage. That's bad moderating as you could possibly do. Sorry,
Okay, now
guys.
I'm gonna share my screen again. Right,
Yes, and I promise not to kick
brief
you out.
infinite screen, and then we come back.
No.
So there's a QR code that you can scan, and then you will go directly to this presentation. So if you want to follow along, or you just or if you want to just read it and just go straight to the end, because you don't want to hear. But I would highly recommend to hear, because I have a lot of like fun stories, personal experience, and I think it will be super valuable. At least it will take you on a nice 30 minutes or maybe like 4 minutes of like personal story and personal experience. Anyway, I really hope you enjoy. Anyway, let's go deep into this liquid staking fundamentals, right? And so before we get into liquid staking, I need to explain to you what is staking first in the context of blockchain, right? Staking is just like it could be, some of you might already understand what is staking, but if you haven't, or if you want to like really dive deep down how Polkadot traditional staking works, which is this concept of nominated proof of stake. That's what Polkadot uses, which is different from like other chains, like if you know about Ethereum or Solana or a bunch of other ones. Polkadot has its own ways of doing things. It's still proof of stake, but it has its own unique ways of handling the consensus, right? But long story short, essentially, right now you are a user. You say you. Oh, by the way, if you have any questions, feel free to just pop the questions in. I will have pauses along the presentation, and then just for me to read the questions. And then if there's any questions I can address in a later part of the presentation, I'll just tell you that I will address later. If it's something that I can address immediately, I will address that immediately. Anyway, so if you are a DOT holder right now, so DOT, Polkadot native token, if you're a DOT holder right now, you have a couple options for you to essentially get yield or interest rate if you're coming from traditional banking background. If you haven't looked into staking context of blockchain, then or just basically you have options for you to have the native token, and you earn interest rate on the native token in the form of that native token. So let's say you have 10 DOT right now, and you have the options to earn, let's say, a 10% rate. You'll be ending up with 11 DOT at the end of the year, right? Let's say that's the hypothetical interest rate. So for you to have you as a DOT holder, you have these options of traditional staking, which is native to the protocol of Polkadot. And essentially, the way you would access this traditional staking mechanism is you have these things called nomination pools. And nomination pool is essentially like you pulling the voting power into like as a collective, right? You could be holding like 2 DOT, right, or 10 DOT or 20 DOT, which is relatively whatever the price at the moment, $80, $100 or $1,000 worth of DOT. And essentially, nomination pool allows you to collectively pool the voting power together. Essentially, what it fundamental is. And then nomination pool, when you join nomination pool, you're essentially delegating your voting power to this entity called nominator. And nominator, and of course, I have a chart for you to look. Nominator is essentially, think about it's like someone that you delegate the voting power to, and that nominator or entity, because it could be multiple, could be one or two, and of course, not the nomination pool. The nomination pool will pick and choose who is a nominator, and that nominator will be the one responsible for selecting the validator to be propose a block, right? So this goes a little bit backward. So I don't know if you have any workshops related to explain to you how a blockchain works. But fundamentally, blockchain, think about is like blocks of information connected together via encryptions. Right? In some via I guess encryption is a little too simple to explain, but it's cryptography. So basically, chunks or blocks, right? Blocks of information in the blockchain that gets chained together, blockchain, in via cryptography for you to be able to form a blockchain, right? That's the gist of it. So then the process of you being able to add more blocks into the chain, you require an entity called a validator. And in the context of Polkadot, you will have nominator, essentially would be the one pick and choose which validator will be eligible to propose a block. And for proposing a block, that validator would also earn a second reward, which is to incentivize them to keep validating the network. And there's like a whole very complicated method for them to do this in more details. So if you want to read more, you can go to something like wiki.polkadot. I hope I remember this correctly. You can go to this website called wiki.polkadot.network. Has tons of stuff. Even had an AI for you if you want to ask the questions directly without needing to read anything. And you can read everything about everything about Polkadot on here essentially. And that's basically what is traditional staking is. So it's a way for you to earn interest on your dot natively built into a protocol without having to setting up anything on top is vital for for Polkadot itself, because this whole thing is how the security of Polkadot is derived. Essentially, you as dot holder, you are delegating your voting power to validator, who is based on the protocol mechanism for them to be able to propose blocks, that because all these blocks contain transactions and activities that is happening on Polkadot. This is how the network, and then because they get incentivized via block rewards. This is how the whole system functions smoothly, like cogs, like wheels inside like a whole really big machine. So this is what have at the moment. But what is the issues of something like this? What is the issues of this? What is the drawback, right? Then why this concept of liquid staking comes about? The biggest drawback for this method of traditional staking is when you enter a nomination pool, you're required to lock your dot, or essentially your voting power / your liquidity, your own capital for 28 days. Right? 28 days you locked inside nomination pool. Essentially, if you deposit today into the nomination pool, and for you to participate in traditional staking, it would take, and then you are like, oh shoot, I need my money immediately, right? Then you're like, oh, then you need to wait 28 days until you be able to withdraw your dot back to you, right? Because the dot will be inside nomination pool. It takes 28 days for you to withdraw, right? And this is it's not like they're trying to, it's not like anything. It's just the way the protocol functions, and you require 28 days to have the withdrawal queue, right? So the biggest problem is that, right? You have your capital. It could be a significant capital that you need access to immediately, but then it is tied into a protocol. Let's say you need to buy, you need to buy a house. You need to you get a car right now. You have an emergency, right? Your own financial emergency. You need to I need liquidity right now, right? Before you, or maybe there's an opportunities, right? Oh, I have an opportunity to build business, invest, or build new projects on Polkadot, but I need the money to hire people, right? But then my capital is on stuck inside nomination pool for 28 days until I can withdraw it, right? 28 days, is it super long? 28 days is quite long, right? You can do a lot of things in 28 days. So that's why liquid staking comes about. The liquid staking was essentially is the way for you to get away from this whole nomination pool that's get you locked for 28 days, while also allowing you to get even more advantage, even more yield, right? I will get even deeper into that in a couple examples later. You see the what's that the more practical applications. But right now, it's just for us to understand, to have a common access of understanding, and really understand what is liquid staking. So anyway, so you got the whole gist about traditional staking. Now let's go over to, and you can see these two graphs are very similar, right? You have the in the traditional staking, you have the pool, the nominated POS, which is proof of stake mechanism, and you have validator, right? And you go to liquid staking, it's practically the same, except the first two layers the layers of nomination pool are replaced by the liquid staking, and the Bifrost, the nominator part becomes just one, which is Bifrost nominator. And what is it? So in nomination pool, you do the same thing just like when you deposit into the nomination pool, which is you are a dot holder, you're holding your dot, and you deposit into the protocol. But instead of depositing into Polkadot, the protocol, or the nomination pool that is set up by Polkadot, the protocol, not by foundation or anything. It's just the way the system functions. entirely essentially built into the protocol. It's not something there's like an entity that does it or anything. There's no centralization here, right? It's like a decentralized like process to set up these nomination pool. And on the liquid staking side, the difference is you will be depositing your dot into Bifrost, the protocol, instead of like Polkadot. And Bifrost exists as a parachain on Polkadot. And think of parachain is like a let's say it's like an app chain. It's a protocol that you inherits Polkadot security, and also it has its own logic that can execute a lot. I can essentially execute a lot of things. Right? In this case, when a user, a dot holder, deposit dot into Bifrost, or in this case, to be more specific, is the Bifrost liquid staking module, which is think about as like a program, a piece of program that you would deposit your dot into. And what the Bifrost liquid staking module will return to you is this thing called vDOT, or short for voucher dot. Essentially a token representing your dot deposit, right? You go back with an exchange rate, right? So it could be, let's say you deposit 10 dot inside, it could return you 7 point something v dot. And I will explain to you why it is that case. Instead of like, why not 10 dot and 10 v dot back, right? Why not do something simple like that? That will be addressed in next couple of slides where I talk about the exchange rate and why it is that way. And then similar to the nomination pool, essentially you can think of this liquid staking layer is like a nomination pool, but instead of it is to be a nomination pool that's set up by the Polkadot D protocol, it is set up by Bifrost. And then you also get, instead of you just depositing it, you also receive an equivalent amount in this token called vDOT, right? For you, back to you, representing your dot deposit. And then your dot deposit will go through the same process as traditional staking, except in this case, Bifrost will be the denominator for you instead of in this case. So in the case of traditional staking, every nomination pool can have a different nominator. And then if you like this nominator, then you go to this nomination pool. If you don't like it, you go to something else. For Bifrost is a nominator. So when you deposit into Bifrost D protocol, liquid staking module of Bifrost D protocol, you are essentially delegating to Bifrost nominator. And a Bifrost nominator has its own algorithm for us to select which validator. It has good history of proposing good blocks and good activities, high quality activities, and all those things for you to return you as much yield as possible. So there's a layer of optimization here already that typically will return you already higher interest rate compared to you just doing traditional staking. Right? So there's a layer of optimization here. Yes, and basically, and there's this advantage of you also having vDOT. So here's the cherry on the cake. You are earning interest rate on your dot, right? Just like traditional staking, but now you have this thing called vDOT that also return to you. So why is it powerful? So if you ever, I think I assume a lot of you would have. I think I don't know if I should assume this, but it's a good analogy. Is let's say you have, if you know anything about this thing called secure credit card. Basically, let's say you want to get a credit card from the bank. What they usually ask you is like, hey, can you deposit? Let's say you want a credit card for $5,000. Can you open a savings account and put $5,000 of your money into it, and then they would issue you a credit card with $5,000 worth of value? Essentially a credit card with the spending limit of $5,000. While your savings account is still earning interest rate, you are also be able to spend that money. So in this case, the liquid staking is very similar to that concept. Is you essentially open a savings account for your dot that you're earning interest rate based on the Polkadot protocol mechanism of nominated proof of stake, how it earns like the incentives and is returned to you as yield for your dot. At the same time, you also have this thing called vDOT, which is extremely powerful for you to also participate in auto DeFi, right? And for you to also earn more money on it. And that's also your liquidity as well. That means you are having a savings account right now, earning interest rate for you, your money is working for you. At the same time, you can also spend your money on anything you like. Right? That's the power of liquid staking. So to summarize everything, I have this simple comparison chart. You have vDOT, which is the liquid staking version of DOT, and essentially what you get is your liquidity is unlocked, right? You can use it for anything. Right? You can swap it, you can sell it for money, for stablecoin immediately if you need the cash. You can also put it into more protocol and earn more interest rate on it as well. So essentially, the same amount of DOT you're starting out with, now you can get more interest rate. So highly capital efficient. Another unique part is because Bifrost is positioned to be the cross-chain protocol. That means vDOT is available on multiple pair chains within Polkadot ecosystem. It will be available on Asset Hub the end of the year when Asset Hub goes to mainnet, right? And is right now it's available in Moonbeam. Of course, it's also available on Bifrost parachain. It's also available as a collateral on Hydrations, right, which is a DEX parachain. So then you can be able to take your DOT to your vDOT to a lot of places and use it in many places as well. So you unlock utility. Of course, you also can still vote for OpenGolf, right? For Polkadot, you have this super wonderful thing called OpenGolf, where essentially tons of decisions are being made every day on, for Polkadot ecosystem in a very decentralized manner and very democratic, right? So every voters be able to voice their opinions and using using DOT, but you already but in traditional staking, your DOT is locked into nomination pool. Yeah, you have no voting power. But now with liquid staking token, you can still be able to do it. So you can still vote for your proposal, any proposal you like, or want to support different causes within OpenGolf, any proposal, you can still do it holding vDOT, right? So super flexible redemption period. Basically, if you need money right now, boom, you can have it, right? Because that's the power of liquid staking, because you have that vDOT and you'll be able to swap in and swap out of your lock position. It's very decentralized. It's inherit full Polkadot security. Essentially, it's just a permissionless protocol. It's a program that operates on top of Polkadot that does all of this optimization, that unlocks liquidity, all of these things for you, while still using the underlying protocol, which is Polkadot, right? So it's decentralized, and you are contributing into the effort to secure the chain, Polkadot, the chain. So it's a win-win-win in every aspect you look at these things, compared to nomination pool, which will lock your liquidity for at least 28 days. You need to unlock it. So lock your liquidity. You cannot do anything about it. It's inside there, and then your money is stuck there, right? Stuck, yes, and you can't do anything. You cannot leverage. You cannot do anything, right? So it's just there. It's not very efficient. Capital just kind of stuck there for nothing, right? You cannot do anything with it. You just kind of leave it there. That's it. You don't do anything. You don't have voting power for OpenGolf. You have 28 days to unlock. You need money immediately. You need something, and you have to wait. You have to wait 28 days, and it could be, like a big issue for a lot of people, right? Say you need to pay rent immediately. You have 5 days to pay it, or you got get on the street, right? Or it's whichever it is. Or you need to hire someone to rent something. There's a lot of reasons you don't want to wait 28 days to have your capital. Of course, it's decentralized, right? It's part of Polkadot, the protocol, and it's secure, Polkadot the chain, right? So this is a nice comparison chart I like to show, where it shows like the differences between these two. All right, before I get to this thing to talk really deep into liquid staking token, what is vDOT? What can you use it for? What's that? A practical example. I would just quickly pop back in and just double check the questions. Anything I want, I can answer immediately, or we'll see. Let's see. Would you want me to answer directly inside the chat, or you want me to like talk it out? I think I do both. I talk it out. I would
Yeah, I
say the
think
questions
I
and
think
talk it out.
talk is the way.
Are we good on time?
Yeah,
I have
plenty of
like
time. Plenty of time. Got
okay.
the hour.
Solid. Okay, let's say GM, everyone's good. How good is the yield Polkadot at the moment? Okay, well, let's check it. All right. Let me just quickly go to this one. Let me share the screen. How good is it? Oh, very easy. Just take a look at it. All right. Hey, yeah. How good is it? So, by the way, Bifrost, besides DOT, we also offer, liquid staking service to a lot of other like parachain as well. So you have a good selection right here. Right? You have DOT right now is 11.31%. Not bad. Pretty good, right? Aster, vAster, right, is like 34.38. Of course, something like Gleamer, which is Moonbeam, we have 9.39%. Fala, the super famous platform for trusted execution service, is 4.61%. Right, so tons of options for you. By the way, it's like there's a Filecoin, but we stopped this service and just waiting for people to unstake. Anyway, of course, you also have BNC as well, which is Bifrost native token. Right, there's also a decent yield here, 5.33%, and you can these are all your options. Tons of stuff, tons of that. You can take a look. Go directly to app.bifrost.io. Right, so you can take a look at all the yield options on there. Is Bifrost the biggest LST provider of Polkadot? Oh, I think I'm having infinite share. Yeah. Yes, Bifrost is the biggest LST provider of Polkadot. I would say so. I think so. I don't know. Oh, yeah. There are older LST as well. Like there were ST dot, I believe, from Stellar, but they're smaller. They only have like a few millions worth of liquidity. Yeah, I would say Bifrost is the biggest LST provider. Does the PVM change the nature of staking on Polkadot? No. So I can say it confidently, no. So PVM, the Polkadot VM, is essentially just a quote unquote. You can think of that as like an abstraction layer on top of what is the underlying protocol. So it wouldn't change the nature of staking a Polkadot. What it will change is how you interact with staking a Polkadot. Could make it easier, by the way. You can build abstraction, I guess simpler abstraction, for you to build protocols, right? On PVM, right? The upcoming updates for Asset Hub. Not hearing. Oh, I'm sorry if you couldn't hear it. Greetings. Yes. And how do we get on these recordings? Yeah, you can ask. If we can get the recording. Like, oh, they will post it. Okay, perfect. How much money is on Bifrost at the moment? To show you, I think it's like 44 millions worth of TVL at the moment in dollars amount. Right. More light on Bifrost sounds good. Can I be used to build? Oh, Bifrost be used to build loan lending debt where people can put a benefit. Blah, blah, blah. We have a practical example coming up. Yeah, we talk about that. Okay. And market vDOT. Okay. Best resources for learning about Bifrost code base. Links to wiki, Rust docs. Yeah, 100%. We are fully open source. So easiest one, just go straight down GitHub. I just type it out for you. And it should go to the GitHub. Yeah. So all the code base is on there. All fully open source. Right? So you can take a look and ask questions. Right? Just like tag people, open discussions and stuff. Cool. All right, let's go back into talking more about like this liquid staking tokens. And let's not wait. Oh, let me just make sure I share my screen. And super brief. All right. Okay, let's open the slideshow. Okay. Let's talk about why it is 10. Like why it is not 10 dot in exchange for 10 vDOT, but 10 dot in exchange for less than that. Right. And this comes into like I will tell you a little bit of history about this concept. So essentially, usually when liquid staking token as a concept started out, a lot of this is also when a time when DeFi was also very, I say, very in very early stage, right? People did not think about that far in terms of like how protocols can essentially this concept of money Legos, where money essentially can be built on top of one another or interact on top of one another. So initially, liquid staking token usually initially would be exactly that. By the way, where you would deposit 10 dot and then you would receive back 10 vDOT, for example. In this case, it's like the early days, right? 10 dot, you get 10 vDOT back. However, your 10 vDOT will slowly gain in amount, right? So let's say you wait for a month. Your 10 vDOT will turn into 11, and then 12, and then 13, and 14, and 15, right? It keeps going up like that, right? 10, 15, and it keeps going up until, like, it's just like, a savings account, right? You put your money in the bank into a savings account, and then your savings account, you start seeing like, oh, I got, plus, $5 today, right? Plus $10 today. Exactly the same, right? The issues with that is when DeFi start maturing and people start building protocols, especially lending protocol, or swap protocol like LP for you to contribute liquidity, essentially just DeFi in general. A very important part of DeFi is accounting, right? For you to go to your account, how much tokens is being put in, how much is being withdrawn, how much is being used, or utilized, leverage, all of these things. There, all of these things you need to have really essentially super airtight system of accounting for you to make sure that tokens on of the calculations essentially own account for own tokens, and there's not there's no routing errors and none of that stuff, right? Because if like computers essentially have issues with like float and all that kind of stuff all the time. Anyway, so go deeper is essentially is when you have a token, so in the early days when you put 10 dot in, goes to like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, blah blah blah, and so on. This one creates so much like a lot of accounting problems, because it keeps going up in the amount keeps going up. So then it creates a really essentially really difficult accounting mechanism. And for blockchain environment, you want to be as simple as possible because your code base is open source, is publicly available for any bad actors to look at and analyze and find vulnerabilities. So then the simpler your calculation is, the better, essentially. And but even if you want to keep it complicated, just having the amount keeps changing, it creates like a tons of issues. Even more issues if you do this concept of like it's like you put your let's say you put your 10 dot into to get into 10 v dot. You take that 10 v dot, you put into another, let's say for example lending protocol, and you take representation of your position from that lending protocol. You also put into another lending protocol or some sort of rehypothecations protocol. And this concept of like money Legos, of money being interacted over and over again, or highly leveraged, these things creates a nightmare, not just for one protocol but for multiple protocols. So then it creates these issues of like, okay, we need to solve this, right? Because DeFi is getting hot, it's growing super fast, but then there's so many different protocols, and then like having this changing changing amount is not super good, right? It will create issues, and people get hacked, and people lose money, all kind of stuff. So the people start coming up with this idea called yield bearing. Essentially, instead of a changing amount, what you would do, the amount would never change. It would stay the same, right? So say you put 10 dot in, you get back is you put 10 dot in, you get in this example I have, you put 10 dot in, what you get back is 6.83 v dot. This exchange rate was captured like a few months before, so then it's a little different right now. But right now it would be even better, but because it should supposed to keep increasing in price. And I will show you a chart that shows you that. So so you put 10 dot in, you get 6.83 v dot back, right? And the practical example is essentially your 10 dot is value. It has a similar value to 6.83 v dot. That's an exchange rate here. And yield bearing, essentially, when because part of staking is that you earning interest rate, right? So then these interest rate will be put back into vDOT to increase interest rate. To increase the exchange rate back to dot. So then over time, and then I give you an example right here. So let's go through the example, and you can kind of see the calculation. And you can do the calculation as well if you want to. And this is like a very practical example, by the way. This is what a lot of people do in real, in practice as well. And if you want to, you can also do this as well. So you put 10 dot into Bifrost, and you get back 6.83 v dot. And then you take your 6.83 v dot, you go to hydrations, right? So hydration is like a DEX parachain. It offers this super attractive LP plus farm APR. And it's like 1% plus 9%, which is 10%. This is what they're offering at the moment, or like a few months ago. Right now, so it might be a little bit less or a bit more, but you can get some percentage of on top of what you deposit in. So your 6.83 v dot you deposit in, you gain more interest rate. And after 365 days, so let's say after a year, from hydrations, what you can do, you will withdraw 7.51 v dot, which is your 10% interest rate, add it into your deposit, which is 6.83 v dot, and then let's assume an AP let's assume an APY of 15%, which is how much the staking rewards for Polkadot is in 1 year, which is 15%. Let's assume that it changes. Guys, just show you it changes. I think it's right now it's like 11 point something, right? It was 15, and now it's like 11. And it changes, by the way. It doesn't, because it relies a lot on activities, right? Transaction activities and stuff. So it fluctuates. It never stays the same, right? So anyway, you get your 7.51 v dot back, and then you go back to Bifrost. You exchange your 7.51 v dot. You will get back 12.48 dot, right? So essentially, your 15% interest rate for the entire year is essentially baked into this exchange rate. So 7.51 v dot, you'll be able to exchange back 12.48 dot. And then you can do all the calculation. You see that you already not just gain of 10% here, you also gain extra 50% here, right? And then all of this thing without having the changing amount, because everything is just, only amounts stay the same. So the accounting is extremely easy when it comes to like just make sure all the amounts are correct. All the amounts are added together correctly, divided correctly, multiplied correctly, all that stuff, right? So you get back 12.48 dot, right? And then everything is accounted for. So it makes everything super simple for any DeFi protocol, right? And it makes the job, the developer experience for you, developer, also easier as well. So you don't have to think about like, if vDOT is going to change the amount, how am I going to supposed to do only accounting? You don't need to care about that, because one vDOT is one vDOT. It's a token. The amount stay the same. It's only the value changes. And the value, in some cases, like if you build a lending protocol, yes, that exchange rate matters, and that's why we offer this XCM Oracle on Bifrost side. You can also always be able to query, and they will return to you the value of the exchange rate at the moment, right? For you to figure it out. You need to liquidate anyone, not in the case of a lending protocol, right? But if people deposit 50 v dot into your protocol, it could be 50 v dot. It will not change the amount. Super easy to do accounting, right? And what is Bifrost USP? What's our unique selling point? Bifrost position itself to be essentially a one-stop shop for everything LST, right? You are standardized. You can. I think I show you from the app.bifrost.io. We have a lot of LST, right? A lot of selections. That means standardization. So we have a ways to standardize all these LST, so they all have the same interface, right? So you as a developer, when you see Bifrost LST, you know how it works. You know the interface is the same, and essentially for any of these ones, so super easy to work with, right? Compared to like other LST provider, like Lido, Rocket Pool, which is the example on Ethereum side, it's a lot. It's a lot more effort. Right? It has, they only offer one option, right? Compared to Bifrost. Of course, it's decentralized. We also aggregate liquidity for you. So then you also, if you use Bifrost chain, you can also you can swap between different LSTs super easy. Governance usage, of course, if you hold vDOT, you can also, and you hold any of those LST, we have a way to let you voice your opinion in any of the governance tasks if you want to participate. Staking one is actually one-stop shop. You have all the LST options for you, and we're adding more, right? Over time, we keep adding more and more, right? Set the gas fee in the case that you want to use your LST as gas fee on Bifrost, 100%, you can use that, right? And unlock utility, which is what I just show you. It's just in the case of hydrations, you not only you'll be able to use you're also getting the interest rate from like that traditional staking, because Bifrost is just like abstraction layer on top of that. You can also participate in providing liquidity for other protocol and earning interest rate on those as well. So you can make more money, right? So more money is good in that case. All right. I was listening, so just quickly show a bit of positioning for everyone. So that positioning at the moment, so Bifrost is all about connecting multiple ecosystems together with Bifrost technology, and coming up there's like a super like on the Polkadot side we have all of these like chains that I show you that we're covering. Coming up as well, we have a super massive campaign, and you feel free to send me a message. I will show you the Twitter. You can send a message and learn more about this. There's like huge amount of incentives being ready at the moment, and like lots of preparations on the Ethereum L2 side to expand DOT footprint into those ecosystem. And Bifrost partner with this company right here. It's called Hyperbridge, and they are like a essentially it's a bridge solution. However, they very secure in a sense, because they're built using ZK, so proof is fully ZK, and it does a lot of stuff on economic security, especially inherits fully from Polkadot as well. So you can go to their website hyperbridge.network and learn more about the solution, because it's like a very, very long, it will be a super long topic to get into if I can do right now. But anyway, so Bifrost also works with Hyperbridge to also expand vDOT into the Ethereum L2 ecosystem as well, and to attract liquidity on that side into the Polkadot ecosystem. So Bifrost positioning is to be this one-stop shop for multiple ecosystem, to be able, and with common developer experience for all of them at the same time, right? So super easy to get started with Bifrost LST. So that's the positioning. All right. So let's talk use cases, because someone was talking about like lending and stuff. So very similar to a lending, but I will read the question again. Then before I will explain this example, I will read the question again, and then I will give you some suggestions on the lending part. Lending is a little bit more adventurous, I would say, but then lending opens up like a lot of utility for people when it comes to their asset, because anyone who like if for professional LP or people who regularly interact with or do business or interact with protocols, lending is a great requirement for for them to balance their portfolios, or just finding yield opportunities and make more money. So I'll talk more about that in a bit. So in this example, I will talk about this concept of no loss token launchpad. And no loss is actually in a big quote. It's not actually no loss, but you can think of that as no loss because you can see the chart. So let's say you're holding DOT right now. Let's say 10 DOT, right? What you can do is you can deposit DOT into a launchpad vault. In your case, and this could be something you build for us for this hackathon on Asset Hub, by the way, is you build a smart contract that receives the DOT, and then what it does is it calls Bifrost liquid staking module, right? So the contract receive the DOT, and then it sends the dot over to Bifrost liquid staking module that will be available on Asset Hub. The Bifrost liquid staking module will return vDOT to you, and you can return this back to, it returns vDOT back to you into a Launchpad contract. And the next thing you can do is you can query the vDOT to dot rate from the Bifrost LST Oracle, or we have a different name. It's called XCM Oracle, right? And you can query the rate, and then the next thing you can do is you can also use this yield essentially. So I deposit dot and returns me vDOT, and because vDOT has ever increasing exchange rate over dot, there's a yield calculation there. So essentially something extra every time over time, so you have something more. So what your Launchpad allows me to do is use that yield from the vDOT that I can use that to buy into tokens, right? Into any tokens. Could be meme tokens, or it could be a project token, like a serious token. Like you could use that to buy Gleamer token, for example. You can use that to buy BNC, for example, or hydration token, HDX, or come up with like a bunch. There's like Holar or like tons of things. You can use that to buy tokens, or to support new projects on Polkadot, for example. Your colleagues, for example. Let's say like your friends inside the same hackathon right now. You can build these things for them to fundraise as well. Right? People can use the yield to buy their tokens, and for them to raise funding, for them to launch the product. And what's the no loss part here? Because you only use the yield on the vDOT, that is, because the exchange rate is ever increasing, so there will be a yield, and you only use that yield. That means, let's say for after a year, you want to I'm done with Launchpad, right? You can withdraw it out, and you still receive your dot. The same amount of dot you put in, which is 10 dot, you can still withdraw 10 dot out, and you only lose the yield, which is depends on a period, anywhere between 10 to 15%. That's not bad. So you already essentially have a way to fund projects in a sustainable manner and much lower risk than, let's say you have 10 dot and just put 10 dot immediately into any projects, right? So then you can experience like heavy losses in that case, because the project token can be worthless or can change or market conditions, a lot of things. But now you only use a yield. That means you only playing around with essentially on your interest rate only. That's fine. Your principal is always remain the same, right? So the risk profile shift significantly, and then it might be very attractive for risk adverse dot holders, right? Or just investor with that kind of risk appetite. There's a lot of different people with different risk appetite. So that's one example on something like a no loss token launchpad. Now let's go back to, I do have, I think that would be temporarily, that's it for the content, right? Let me quickly just go over to the questions. If I can just quickly answer that one for you. What would you like us to build in the hack? And people asking what they want. Please, we need to know what project we will build. Hack, does Polkadot need more bridges? We would like more bridges, but building bridges is like super hard. My idea for hackathon is implementation, especially by Bifrost team. Of course, yes. Okay, I will answer all this with just going to the next part of the presentation. And I will just quickly go this one. You see, everything will be answered for you. So for this hackathon, we have prizes, everything for you, stuff, and of course because Asset Hub, you also have separate prizes as well. But this will be coming from Bifrost team. You can also take a look at the idea section. So here's a QR code for you, take you to this idea section. So you have tons of ideas there for you to explore. And of course, if you have any questions on any of the ideas, just open a discussion thread, and I'll show you in a bit. And then you can just tag me and just ask me questions like, hey, I would like to work on something like this. Can you help me a bit more? Right. And let's go next one. What can Bifrost do to help? We have a builder program. We have grants that we can provide you. We also have liquidity that we can inject to you. We can support you, community and marketing. So we have Bifrost itself has a very vibrant community. So essentially, we have an intern, and the intern will just tweet about you and share your product to the community, and people will try your product, right? Especially right now, the hackathon is gonna be on the West End Asset Hub, so there's no risk, right? People can just use testnet environment with no risk, right? So intern will work extra hard to help you with that. And you can, and of course, technical help. You have any questions, I'm available to help you. Answering your questions, helping you build, review your codes, make suggestions, etc. Right? And here's a QR code that takes you to the builder program sections for you to read. Feel free to pause after you receive the video, or just scan right now, just get the link. And everything is on GitHub, by the way. You can just navigate around there. But for this Encode hackathon, what we're looking for is, essentially, this is a topic that we usually put out for essentially most hackathon, is create a unique and optimal UX user experience for interacting with Bifrost liquid staking tokens available on many chains, right? So building good UX. And of course, this is usually what we put because we want more adoptions of LST. However, if you want to work on a lending protocol, you want to work on anything else beyond this topic, right? The grants are available for all of that. So you don't have to worry about, you only have to work on this. This is usually my suggestions for hackathon, because onboarding people is usually the hardest part. Building a protocol to get people to leverage their yield higher and higher, or earn more yield, usually is not the hardest issues. But the hardest issues is actually onboarding people. And for onboarding people, we want really good UX. How do you take someone without any knowledge, like a complete new person when it comes to blockchain and crypto? You can onboard them into Bifrost liquid staking token with as few steps as possible, as easy as possible. They can understand not everything, but understand all the basic informations within minutes, right? For them to oh, I get it, makes sense, 100%. Oh, I put my money in, right, to stake, make some money, save money, right, save yield, and start exploring the ecosystem surrounding the liquid staking tokens, right? So this is like a fairly broad topic, by the way. You can do a lot of things with it. And if you want to dig more, I'm happy to answer more questions on what do I mean by broad. Is extremely broad, because UX comes in many different flavor. It can comes in as a form of smart contract, it come in a form of a front end, dedicated front end that does something. It can even come in as an intent system, or AI agent, and a lot of things, right? So there's super broad category essentially. But you feel free, if you have an idea on a lending protocol or something, feel free to propose it. And if you have any questions and you want to reach out to the intern, this is the intern. Here's a QR code. I'll take you to the account. The intern is called Frosty LST. The intern account is shared among many people, including our interns, Bifrost interns, and it does all the retweet, the quote tweet, interactions, everything with the community. Right, so feel free to tag it. Right? And the interns work super hard to get builders to be noticed. Right? People will know about you. No worries, no problems. And I also have all the resources, everything for the Encode Polkadot Scalability Hackathon, everything on this link right here. Here's a QR code, and you can just grab it if you want to. There's tons of information there, resources, everything is on there, including I guess some sample codes, testnet kit and stuff, and also instructions and so far. So instruction and more on the grant process. So you can read on that. And that's it, right? That's it for the presentation. That's it for the workshops, right? And let me just circle back into the questions if anyone has more questions.
Yeah, just the questions about UX and DeFi and idea validation.
Ooh, okay. Do you think DeFi and Polkadot lags behind other teams? You mean other teams as other ecosystem? Yeah. If you mean other systems, yes. Polkadot is still TVL is still relatively small compared to all the ecosystem. And this is something that, Bifrost and Hydrations, and especially, with all the upcoming campaign, we're working super hard to try to, to make it better, especially Asset Hub, right? The effort of Polkadot adding smart contract capability into Asset Hub is because Asset Hub is supposed to be where a lot of assets are supposed to be grouped into that hub. So then now with the smart contract capability, what we want, Polkadot ecosystem want to see is developers like you guys building things in this asset layers, right? Asset heavy environment for you to leverage it, like providing lending capability, providing more utility for liquid staking tokens, etc. On these things. So yes, Polkadot lags behind other teams in terms of DeFi, but that's why the whole ecosystem, that's also why we have OpenGolf, that's also why we have a super supportive ecosystem that comes together and really try our best to solve the problem. And just like everything in life, if you have a problem, you solve it. Right? What makes good UX? Oh man, something you're proud. Like if you good UX is somewhat subjective to people, but usually if you use an app, usually what I tell people is like if you use any app and you log in and you use it, you're like, wow, this is so good. It's so fast, so snappy. It makes me feel like, wow, this makes me feel like smooth. Everything there's like no friction. That's where the good UX comes in. It's not subjective because good UX is somewhat subjective to people because some people is more willing to endure the friction. Other people know. So another way you can also determine what's a good UX, like you make something for your mom, right? Your mom is probably or your grandma, right? If your grandma can understand a lot of things pretty quickly, and don't underestimate grandma, man. Grandma had, for them to raise you, your family, everything. They've been through a lot of financial thing, right? They know financial concept. They know like loans. They know about all of savings, everything. It's just they might not know it the way that we know it as like a blockchain. They know it the way the bank does it, right? So if you somehow connect concepts and you build something like an app, show it to your grandma, your mom, they go through it. It's like, oh, it makes sense. I know it because my bank does the same thing. Now it does actually, yeah. It's just now it's on chain, right? So it's different, right? And then you come up with some ways to explain that easier, right? And then that's like a whole trial process to explain it because we want to onboard more people. We shouldn't be, be too complacent that everyone understand blockchain to a very advanced knowledge. But now people understand, you have ways to onboard more people, more liquidity, more users, and it's better for ecosystem as a whole. How good must the UX be when its operations is fully functional? For the hackathon, do your best, for the time that you have, right? You have like, how many days you have at the moment, how many days left you have. So do your best, right? And if you win something from the Encode hackathon, you win something on that side. If you don't, Bifrost grants are still used to. You might still be eligible for Bifrost grant as a separate component, right? So you have the winning ideas, you build asset hub. But if you want to, I didn't win anything, but Victor, please, or ZX team, I'm no online ZX team. I know. In real life as Victor, hey, can you take a look at my UX? Is what can is it qualify for grant? Something I could build extra, anything improve upon, and to be qualified for the grant. I will happy to help. I even a lot of times I do a code review for devs and help them to understand the grant process and also help them to understand where they should be building towards. Right, so take a shot at it, and we'll see. Right, but for the hackathon, do your best. Right, give 120% for this hackathon. Right, do it. Right, just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah, just do it. Cool. I think we are good for time. Yeah, we I think it's the end of the workshops, and the starter packages for the UX. There's a dot UI that was a big major contributions from OpenGL. Was that from OpenGL? I can send you. Yeah. You can take a look at it, and that's like some UX part of it inside .ui. I will send inside the chat right now. So any ideas? So good UX UI, good UX UI. I don't know. Like try Nova Wallet for example, and see how you like the wallet. Like Nova Wallet is like a super fast growing wallet right now in the Polkadot ecosystem. Try it and tell me like do you like the UX or not? Right? Is it good for you? I like it too. Right? So you can use it as a benchmark. Is it a good UX or not? Right? And trust me, good UX is like extremely vital because it's the onboarding experience, and and it could be very complicated. By the way, like you could try right now, right? If you haven't used hydration before, try to use hydration right now, and you see there's friction, right? There's tons of friction here and there. How do you make the friction to go to zero, or 0 point something, right? Close to zero? And that's where the good UX comes in. And that's also how you onboard more people, right? Because it's so easy to use. They will use more, right? So you can build tons of things, right? You can build decks, you can build things, you can build optimizations, you can build smart contract, you can build front ends, you can build a lot of things, right? So if you can stuck, try to it doesn't hurt to ask AI, whip out ChatGPT, just ask like, hey, I want to build something, and the question is how to build good UX. It will usually give you a pretty good starting point, and you keep drilling deep, and you're still stuck. Just send Frosty LST a message. I will answer, I guess. Yeah, if you're still stuck there.
Nice. Any other questions, guys? Okay, Victor, thank you very much for your time. Fantastic presentation, guys. This will be up on YouTube tomorrow morning. Otherwise, a good rest of the day. Thank you very much.
All right, guys, enjoy. Guys, have a good
Cheers.
day. Bye.